Hi, welcome to Storytime with Dave Booker. Appreciate you being here. Today we're going to continue on with Soleman, Rogues Gallery, and the chapter we're doing is Skid Row. Harry and Otis were making headway. They were about to be introduced to Tony Twocombs. Back at the mansion, Persephone and Sharon were resting and discussing what they had encountered at the Nightingale mission. Sharon, I have to admit, you were right. The things those men did and the way the women were treated is, well, unforgivable. I'd never have thought any man today would do this sort of thing, much less be able to get away with it. Sharon was shaking in anger. Well, they aren't getting away with it anymore. Someone somewhere is taking these men to task. By the way, I saw a man go into Madame Nightingale's office today. She seemed very pleased to see him. Do you think she's her boyfriend? Persephone shook her head. I doubted. She was holding a paper. He looked at the page first, then at her. Had he been able her swaying, he would have been looking into those amazing eyes first. Sharon looked not smelling. She must be incredibly beautiful. Do you think she covers up to not make the other women feel bad for not looking as beautiful as she does? I mean, lots of women would be almost like her if they were scarred. Persephone looked with pity on Sharon. She was almost an innocent. She's just as scarred as they are, perhaps even more so. Sharon was shocked. Who could do something like that to her? She's so wonderful. Persephone moved to the chair closer to Sharon. So the woman that sought shelter there. They're all of a similar type, sweet, trusting, innocent souls with beautiful hearts, forms, and faces. Seems this is the type to get hurt the worst. Once they begin to show a little independence, the men get angry and violent. Did you notice that almost all of them were at one time members of the Victorian? Sharon gulped. I never dared to inquire about their lives. I mean, I usually concern myself with ministering aid, dressing bandages, and helping them clean themselves. You know, I think Madame Nightingale must have bought all the rose water in the city. Sharon's face paled. We're members of the Victorian now. Will Perry and Oedipus change too? Oh, Persephone, I'd die if Oedipus became like those husbands. Persephone held her close as a mother would her child. I seriously doubt we have anything to fear from along those lines. Perry and Oedipus are playing a part. They're keeping themselves separate from the characters they play when visiting the Victorian. They won't be corrupted. Besides, we're too strong-willed to be true Victorian beauties. Sharon looked at her, up into her eyes. Well, you are. I've never been a strong person. I like being cared for and taking care of Oedipus. You'll have to teach me to separate myself into a character of a Victorian lady when we go there. I may fall into the trap of becoming one for real. Persephone agreed. Victor's wife is very emphatic on us becoming true Victorians. I can play the part, but I could never be that subservient. At heart, I doubt you could either. Oedipus gives you too much freedom, and he respects you as much as he loves you. Perry and Oedipus arrived soon after their discussion. Sharon went to see about getting an early supper and have the maid do some cleaning. The butler was cleaning the silver and gold statues and candlesticks. The only team of three, they managed to keep the mansion clean and fresh. Persephone had always marveled that amongst the other talents, Perry and Oedipus had done the job themselves as well as fighting crime. Over an excellent supper, they were going to discuss all the progress they so far, but the men had to eat quickly and change for their interview. We're going to finally be introduced to the lead man for this revenge scheme. When we get back, we'll go over what you both have discovered. By combining that with what we pick up, we should be able to decide which side of the fence we're on. Persephone drove them far enough away to catch a bus into town. She would have taken them all the way, but the tread knot was a little conspicuous, and their new limo even more so. Kissing them goodbye, Perry and Oedipus caught a bus and rode to the edge of the bad side of town. As they approached the mission, the way was blocked by three men from the auspicious establishment. Tony Twocombs had promised each 150 if they could keep the two men from entering the mission. He wanted to see what kind of metal his new recruits had. Perry summoned up the situation immediately. Turning to Opus, he grinned. It's fun time. Otis braced himself to meet whatever onslaught came. Two of the men ran to attack, while Steve waited to see if he was needed for intervening. With it being 1 against 1, the fight was soon over, and the rough and tumble fighting was lost to the smooth efficiency of Soleman and Flats. Otis was game to tackle Steve. Perry at first was going to accept the challenge himself, but felt that would be good proof of Otis's abilities. He could always lay in himself if required. He was sure that somewhere the hidden Tony was watching and gauging them. Otis approached. Steve exuded confidence mixed with respect. Good evening. I take it you're the final challenge. Steve inclined his head respectfully. Yep, you fellows are good. I'll admit it, and normally I'd be happy to just call it a draw, but I got a job to do, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to fight you. Otis shrugged. Well, how much are you getting paid for doing this? A penny, so you better believe I'm going to do the job right. Otis smiled. I'm sure you will. Well, shall we begin the dance? Steve laughed the way Otis had phrased it. Let's dance. And he waded in with fists flying. Otis dodged, weaved, getting as close inside as he could manage. Steve, having long arms, had always fought at a distance, and his strikes hit hard. Fighting with someone close to him made his strikes less effective. Otis continued to stay close, no matter how Steve tried to back away or move out. After a while, Otis grew bored and delivered a massive uppercut, sending Steve's head backwards against the building. It didn't knock him out, but did enough damage that he slowly sank to earth. Otis held out his hand and helped Steve up. Steve grinned and messed up Otis's hair. You're all right. I'd like to have you on a crew with me just fine. He looked over at Perry, who was still leaning comfortably against the building. Both of you. Perry and Otis helped the other two men, and they all went inside. Tony was standing applauding, was motioning for the rest to join in. He extended his hand to them. Thomas said he was sending over some real good men I'd want to meet. I think that's probably you two. He brought them into the back office and explained the setup. Gentlemen, I would like to congratulate you on the skill used in the melee I set up for you. Intelligence is useful in this endeavor, and I see both of you have it. At the moment, we are in a sense hired help. That does not mean we work for pittance. I wouldn't do it if that was the case. Dr. Nocturne will bring us the name and address of our intended victim. We'll go there with a sufficient crew to accomplish what is required. Sometimes it's a spray of a particular virulent concoction that will deface the individual. We are ordered to use an antidote after a specific amount of damage has been accomplished. We may also be required to break a bone or so. We're allowed to go only so far with the individual. If we go farther than instructed, we will no longer be of use to the good doctor. So I repeat, do as we are instructed. While the person is being dealt with, you are free to go into the home and take whatever you want. Pulling a few items from a drawer, place them in front of Perry and Otis. He had Otis turn around, then turned to a critical eye on Perry. Now, which of these items would you consider of greatest value? The items in question were a diamond ring, a small framed sketch of a foot, a black pearl, and a large brick of gold. Perry immediately went for the small sketch. Tony had Otis turn around and asked him the same question. Otis reached out for the gold, then swiftly changed his mind and all tapped on the sketch. Tony grinned. You're the only two to guess correctly. An unassuming little sketch, but more valuable than anything else on the desk. It's by Michelangelo, as you know, no doubt surprised. You may be the men to fetch the highest valued items. I have recently made many contacts that will dispose of items not easily converted. The funds raised will be distributed between all who participated in that particular job. Dr. Nocturne was admitted into the office and introduced to the new recruits. They stood and shook the doctor's hand. Tony again smiled at the show of respect towards Dr. Nocturne. These two were definitely superior and were worth more than the rest of the gang. Dr. Nocturne bade everyone to be seated and brought out the piece of paper with the name and address of tomorrow's victim. Mr. Lawrence P. Chase of 1530 Northumberland Avenue. So it might be a little different from the rest. Mr. Chase is a man of caution, and his servants live in the mansion. You are allowed to immobilize the servants, but do not harm them, since they are innocent. Again, I will bring my own crew, who will go in first. The victim and/or the servants may emerge. I will leave how you handle things up to you. As usual, you and your team may remove whatever you see fit to take as compensation. As to the damage done to the victim, he is to be sprayed with the contents of this bottle. Allowed to work for 2 minutes before you give the antidote. Spray the neck, back, and left side of the face, avoiding the eye and ears. The left arm is to be broken and the left collarbone fractured. This will require finesse, so choose your man wisely. The mansion is large, but you will only have 7 minutes within which to gather your spoils. Police department is 11 minutes away at top speed, and it's certain that one of the servants will call the police immediately, so do not dawdle. I want to be far away before the police arrive. Dr. Nocturne bowed and departed. Tony rose, indicating the meeting was closed. You gentlemen are more than welcome to stay here if you are fortunate, but if you are fortunate to have your own abodes, return tomorrow by 5 o'clock in the evening. The two left and took a bus home. By 5 o'clock in the showered and dressed in their normal clothes, they described their adventure. The ladies described theirs, and they discussed their options. Persephone was solemn. Harry, the women I have all been brutalized, and I don't think that is too strong a word for what they have been through. Even the mission director had been attacked. Probably would let her to start the mission. When she went over, I saw beneath her headpiece. Her face and neck are badly scarred as if someone threw acid on her. Only her eyes and surrounding skin are still intact and incredibly beautiful. She heaved a great sigh. Well, I think what is happening is justified. Cheryl nodded. I agree. Every woman had the same tale to tell. Deeply in love with their husbands, they gladly went to the Victorian. At first, they found it fun and exciting. They agreed with the lectures Victor's wife gave about a wife's duty to home and husband, and gladly fell in with her teachings. It seems the longer the men belonged to the club, the more marked their change became. They began to be strict and expect their wives to be totally under their thumb. They could visit friends as long as those friends were wives of club members and none other. The more authoritarian the husbands became, the more the wives began to seek other modes of comfort. When the wives started to have interests of their own, it eventually infuriated the husbands and the discipline began. It wasn't physical at first, a harsh word or two, but then it became harsher. Of course, this alienated the wives further, and they sought absolute seclusion, making matters worse. When they eventually refused to go to the club, it was time for corporal punishment. That is when the wives were scared, scarred, broken, and finally divorced simply because of the damage to their face and body that the men themselves had inflicted. Same pattern over and over and over again. She began to weep and came over, sat with Oedipus in an embrace. Harry told of their meeting of Tony Two Cones. He had a reception committee waiting, 2 regular thugs and 1 huge bruiser. 2 thugs were simple and to place out of the mix, and Oedipus handled the bruiser single-handed, and a damn fine job he made of it. He knocked the guy clean off his feet. We were led inside by the bruiser, who became Oedipus's friends on the strength of their fight. In the back office, we were given the lowdown on how things are worked by Tony Two Cones. He kept his hat low so his face was in shadow and his voice was disguised. He wore gloves so I couldn't see much to help in getting a line on who he really is. Podolsky has been researching aliases, and there is no record of any Tony Two Cones. I figure he's a recent addition to the criminal class. I have to admit, he seems more astute than most of the ones we've come up against. Thomas happened to mention that Tony had some interesting gadgets, more than what he had what we already know about. It's going to be interesting to see him in action. Oh, we were introduced to the man who gives Tony the assignments. Odd sort of fella, trench coat and a cap with ear flaps, tall, thin, smells Mainly some sort of feces, but what I couldn't guess. Persephone sat up straight and gasped. "We saw the man that talking to man Nightingale. He must be the go-between. He gets a man's name and address from her, as well as pertinent information on what was done to the woman. He takes that information to Tony, who takes his mob out and inflicts the damage. Do you have any idea how Tony gets paid? I didn't see any money transfer from Nightingale to Nocturne." Harry gave it a consideration. "Well, the mob is allowed a certain amount of time to steal whatever they want, so I assume it is divided between Tony and Nocturne, some going to the Met, but what the distribution percentage is, I won't know until tomorrow." And that's where we're going to stop. I know this was a short chapter. I do apologize. The next one is on the other side. We've already scheduled that one, so that will be on Friday. And I have a piece of paper to act as bookmark. So that's it for today. I appreciate you being here. I hope to see you again on Friday. I hope you're enjoying this book. If you are, put it down in the comments section. Let me know. If you're not liking it, let me know that too. These books all of my books are available on Amazon. And what I'll do is I'll start putting links to them on books to read, because they're available in just about any place. In fact, I even saw mine on the Walmart website. So they're available. I look forward to seeing you again on Friday. Be good and be good to yourself. Bye.